Sports Illustrated reportedly created fake authors for AI articles. When AI exploded earlier this year, and granted, not like our guest, the rest of us are a little late to the party here, but one of the concerns and the questions that comes up is, well, how am I going to know
what's real, what's not
what's real, what's not real in all facets of life? And is this the real fake news traveling down the road thing we're going to be looking at? Sports Illustrated. When I was growing up, Sports Illustrated was the hammer. Sports Illustrated was the go-to. Long before there was an ESPN, there was Sports Illustrated, and every week you got the best journalism, all that things. Well, SI supposedly created all this stuff. When they got busted, they just erased it. Just deleted it. Abraham Doris-Down joins us, happens to be my incredibly intelligent nephew, and the Senior Director of UX and Visual Design at the Boston Globe Media Company. Is this the future? I'm sure this is stuff they talk about all the time. And good morning to you, Abe. How are you?
Good morning, Steve. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Well, I'm fine, but the most important question we have here is obviously, how is your son doing? Little John had RSV, right?
Oh.
Yep, he's on the rebound. May go back to school today, maybe tomorrow. We're still waiting to see.
All right, and he's not yet 4, so don't let him drive. We've had this talk.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
He'd like to, though.
So that's I bet he would. All right, so you control, or you're the guy that makes sure the look of what goes on at Boston Globe Media when we go to websites related to the same is attractive and a hook and presents the content appropriately. AI is a world that may fake us out completely, or what do we know? This is even before we get to the Sports Illustrated story.
Sure. So the big explosion, as you alluded to, was in generative AI. So that kind of happened at the end of last year, and it's really become proliferated out and really easy to use. And a lot of tools out there, Chat GTP being the most common one that people refer to, and it really allows people to write and generate big swaths of content really easily. And so there's been a lot of issues of people passing off content. It's professors and teachers in schools have been talking about it, people, handing it in as papers and things like that. So it's definitely here to stay. And now we're trying to get a handle on what's come out of Pandora's box.
And the Pandora's box, check this out, Jane. So a writer by the name of Drew Ortiz was described as enjoying camping, hiking, and being back on his parents' farm. However, his headshot was easily found on a website with the description, neutral white, young adult male with short brown hair and blue eyes.
Oh, come on, really?
Completely fabricated.
Fake headshot, too.
And
sounded like my kind of guy, too.
Futurism gets credit for stirring this up. But then they found out there were several, right?
Yeah, that's what they were stating in the article, that they were found there was this one, Drew Ortiz, that also that the stuff that was attributed to Drew Ortiz had changed hands with different, what Futurism is saying was, fake authors, profiles generated that they would switch it out and they would redo the bylines and everything with no calling that out or saying why that was happening.
So here's my question that I think goes to the core of this. Mm-hmm. Is this big media companies saving money? Is this an experiment going forward to see what they can move and get away from? I think you and I had this conversation before. There are certain things that AI is going to be able to generate: daily sports scores, daily updates, things that are factual and that you can find in other places that aren't going to be an issue.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going to write reporting and opinion pieces, you got to say what it is, don't you?
Yep. I completely agree, and I think most of the publications that are going forward with AI are trying to add that level of transparency around it. And I think also a lot of the initial forays into the AI publications the AI content have had a lot of glitches, problems. The stories have really been subpar. It's kind of one of those things that we think AI can do it, and it's really not ready for prime time. I'd also say it's important to note out that like Arena Group, who owns SI, says that they don't use AI writers, and they actually kind of punted this to a vendor of theirs, Advon, that creates advertorials that apparently a lot of this content was. Publishers will supplement content with things like advertorials as one, give their readers something to read, but also as a different way to kind of do revenue splits and stuff. So it's a way to bring in more money. Advon claims that they don't use the AI, but that they use kind of fake personas to protect the anonymity of some of their writers. Take with that what you will. But clearly, it's easy enough to do. You have sites out there that you can get AI-generated headshots, so you're not even stealing the images of somebody else. You're kind of creating a fake new person. You can have AI write up a biography real quick, and you can have AI write up a story really quick. I think really one of the big things your listeners should know is that when it comes to generative AI in journalism, I think it's a lot of the problems that it presents aren't new. We've had situations, obviously, going back, some high-profile cases going back years, reporters actually completely fabricating stories or fabricating sources and things like that. So that's not new. I think what AI does, though, which we're trying to get a handle on, is that the speed and ease and scale that AI can do things at, right? So it's one thing if you have one bad actor in your newsroom kind of going nuts. It's another thing if, like, let's just say Arena Group signs up for a vendor and that vendor's using completely AI. How do you know? How do you check these things and stuff? So we have the AI detection tools, but a lot of these things, as we know, end up being kind of a technological arms race between the bad actors and, the people trying to detect.
Well, I mean, well put and well summarized, but I guess I'd say that it comes down to what we know, because this is a fast ticket to getting fired at the Boston Globe or the New York Times or the Washington Post and what's left of the Chicago Tribune. So the places that have had the standards where you knew you were getting news, I assume, are watching this stuff like a hawk, right?
Yes. I mean, I know at the Globe it's something that we take very seriously, and I'm part of other groups and things like INMA and stuff, and AI is a general topic of conversation, specifically generative AI, but also just AI in general. Like, how do you do recommendations? How do you use AI tools to summarize big data sets and stuff just for your reporters? So not even talking about creating any content that goes out on the site. The big key really seems to be that the places that are really trying to embrace it is really setting out good key guidelines, with the biggest top one being transparency. And I think that seems to be the biggest thing. If this SI story turns out to be, all the allegations turn out to be true, is that it was more that they weren't transparent about it. I think there's a lot of stuff. I think a lot of the audience out there, why skeptical, is open to seeing what AI can do for them as readers and consumers of content, as long as it's very clear what is being presented to them. Well, I think really what this story kind of is resonating with folks is, one, as you pointed out, like SI used to be this giant, used to be one of the most important sports publications, period. Mm-hmm. And also that, hey, wait, you're faking writers. You're not just throwing up AI content, but then you're trying to claim that it's written by, people that don't even exist and don't even have social media presences and have all that good stuff.
Well, and so what's interesting to me is that Sports Illustrated should have researched Advon, knowing that they used AI. But I get it, content is king.
If they're telling the truth there.
Correct. Right. Maybe they did know, but content. Seems like everything is content these days, which is maybe a cost savings way. But if everybody goes the route of using AI to write articles, and even with some sort of, laws or protocol around it, eventually, does then the information that AI is written and then gets recycled, everything it's a layering effect, right? So we're going to be changing the way we look at things because it's all based off of AI research.
Yeah, I think there's definitely the chance that that's going to happen, kind of that once things get into the AI machine, they kind of cascade on each other and become very self-referential. Right. And that's the problem that a lot of, journalists and, media publications are definitely taking a look at it, because we don't want that to be the case. I think, as a user experience person, always trying to figure out how to make products better for people, I think the big thing that I see the potential of AI actually being helpful with, even generative AI, is being able to summarize content and stuff for people to fit in their time frame. So it's like, you drive into work and you have 15 minutes. Could we actually generate a story just for you covering the topics that you're interested in using AI? But the point is referencing stuff that was actually written and verified by real people, that it's just not the machine running amok.
Producer Tom Hush, we're not sure he's real. We believe he's been AI generated. You had a question, Fred?
Yeah, and maybe this is a little too existential for the whole thing, but doesn't stuff like ChatGPT spit in the idea that writing is hard? It is a skill. Journalism is hard. The ability to choose words precisely and write should be difficult. And I know you're plugging in ideas into a machine that will help you out, but to me it just says, hey, anybody can be a writer. All they need is someone to generate the right words for them. When I think there's a real human
bad
skill
message.
in what it is, in writing something.
Well, I think, if we take a look at the stuff that so far has been generated, it starts to become clear. So that does seem to really need to be a human element. I think a lot of this is right now when it comes to AI, I'm on the side of more of like, this is our next industrial revolution, that things are going to just change. And it's how we work and how we create is going to change, but that it will still be driven by people, that you'll still need those keys. So there is the question, like I would actually say like electronic music, right? So I remember watching something with a very popular, electronic music. I think it was Deadmau5, and he said and he was showing all this complicated stuff he had to do, and he said, I have to do all this because I never learned how to play the piano. So the question is should he be allowed to create music because he can't, play an instrument, but yet he makes stuff that's popular?
Well, you know what? You brought up
That's a really good point, actually.
You bring up a question that segues to another that we don't have time to answer. But is this something that should be government regulated? No. But can we count on the people to self-police so that trust exists? Oh, you've created a mess,
Yes.
Abe. This is your fault. This is your fault. And by the way, just to put a capper on a Sports Illustrated piece of this, Michael pointed out, and he's right about this, the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue had AI-generated fake content partially for years.
Really?
Yeah. Depending on the photo.
Are you sure?
No, but it's interesting. I could say that to Abe.
Yeah.
Those are just touch-ups.
No touching. And please apologize to John. Your Aunt Maureen texted to tell me he turned 4 in October.
No worries.
All right, buddy. Thanks for doing
I think
this.
he'll forgive you.
I appreciate it. Thanks for doing this, man. We'll
Thanks,
be in
Abe.
touch.
All right, take care.
That's Abraham Doris-Down, genius from the Boston Globe
Just
Media
way
Company.
too smart.
Yeah, I brought up great points, though. Really
Yeah,
did.
really did. Yeah.
Yeah.